today's story, as we are approaching Yud Shvat, the stalkers of the Chassidic Rebbe, and what's negated to us, the beginning of the Deir HaShvi didn't see us. So this story is related as follows: but Rabbi Zalman Tzedakevich, Olav Shalom, who lived in Kvar Chabad, and he relates as follows. I may have told you this story. It's connected to next week's parsha, Parshas B'Shalach, which is Parshas B'Shalach B'Shalach is always the parshas around Yud Shvat. So Lag Ba'im in 1947 in Paris. That's where most of the Lubavitcher Chassidim are concentrated, having come out of Russia after the war, in that window of opportunity, the shalonim, the trains, as they were referred to, where they came out on false Polish passports, passports of Yidden that perished, Achman Litzlan, and they assumed their names, and they left this way. So there we were. It could be even a picture, a photograph of this. It was a Fabrengen with the Rebbe. The Rebbe had come to Paris in 1947, as you know, it's a dual mission, was to bring back his mother, and also to see the matziv of Anash, of the Chassidim, and how things should proceed from there. So it was a Fabrengen Lag Ba'omer, and we were sitting at the table. The Ramash is referred to, Ramash, right? Sat at the head of the table. On his right side was a Bisa Kluvgant, that's my grandfather. Next to him, Rabbi Shmuel Betzalel Altais, that's my great uncle. Myself, he says, is Zalman Tzedakevich, Rabbi David Cook, and Rabbi Meir Rifkin. To the Rebbe's left was Rabbi Blazinski, Rabbi Yisrael Blinitsky, Rabbi Shmayo Sasonkin, these all big Chassidim. Rabbi Vlishansky, Rabbi Tzalel Vlishansky, and Rav Lokshin, and Rabbi Ben Shem was standing behind. There's a picture of this. And he didn't sit, he used to stand, Ben Shem. Anyway, so we're sitting at the Fabrengen, we washed our hands for Suda. We said L'chaim on vodka. He had in brackets that they used to do in those days, as if they don't do it today. You know. And the Rebbe's Fabrengen about the day, and there were many wondrous divrei Torah. Then Rabbi Issa turns to him, that's my grandfather, Rabbi Issa, after whom my oldest son is named. And my Zayde, is me speaking, Moishe you speaking, I'm confused here, turns to the Rebbe and he says, the name of the Chassidim that we're asking a bracha, well, not a bracha, we're asking the Rebbe, the Ramash, he's going to go back to America, right? He came to pick up his mother. And that he should, on our behalf, ask for a bracha from the Rebbe, the Chassidic Rebbe, that he should, for bracha, that they should get their visas to be able to come to America. And this was not an easy matter. In order to get a visa, you had to be a professor. You had to have this designation of being a professor. And that wasn't an easy matter. So he's asking, my grandfather, my Zed is asking the Rebbe that they should ask from the Chassidic Rebbe bracha that they be successful in this regard. So the Rebbe said, L'chaim. He had in brackets that he then told my grandfather where he should live. I'm not sure if it actually happened then, but that's another story, that the Rebbe wanted my Zayde to come to Montreal. Turned out that he didn't. His grandson did, that's me. But that's a story for another time, which I may have told you. But back to the Fabrengen. So the Rebbe gently chastises my grandfather. And he doesn't mention it here, but I heard from another source that why did my Zayda of all the Chassidim speak? Because my Zayda is a cousin with the Rebbe. Actually, my grandfather's first cousins with the Rebbe's mother, the Rebbe Sanchana, from both sides, from his father and his mother, because a brother and sister married a brother and sister. So the Rebbe's mother, Rebbe Sanchana, was my grandfather's first cousin from both his father and both his mother. It's obviously very close, and so he kind of was the one that represented the Chassidim. So I heard that the Rebbe said, kind of with a smile, you don't need protectia. In other words, because we're related, so therefore you're going to ask me to ask the Rebbe, it's all not necessary. And he goes on to say as follows. I don't have to ask the Rebbe, says the Rebbe, referring to the Frierdiker Rebbe, I don't have to ask him. I don't have to ask him for a bracha that he should do and request that to facilitate the visas for this one or for that one or any of the like. The Rebbe knows what's needed and he does it himself. I don't have to ask him. So you don't have to send me, it's okay. And he's acknowledging that, the Bisra is speaking on your behalf. All of this is not necessary. And then the Rebbe said, to illustrate, he said, you don't know how much love. He did this at Summa, he says friendship and love that Rebbe has for every chassid. And especially you, he said, those who are able to get out behind that from the Iron Curtain, Mekabach, as it was called then, the Valley of Tears, from communist Russia. And I'll tell you, he says, that a story that happened this year. And you understand what I mean. He says, as you know, the Rebbe, he says that my father-in-law had suffered a stroke and cannot walk. And he gets injections for this stroke. Every day at a certain time, they come to give him an injection. They knock on the door, and they hear yes, and they come inside. One day, Kislev of this year, the time, the regular time for the nurse to come to give the injection, they knock on the door, and they don't. My father is not responding. They knock a second time, and still no response. So they open the door handle, they look inside, and the Rebbe, my father-in-law, is sitting by the table and not responding. And they can see he's not seeing. And then they got closer, they see, in fact, his eyes are closed and his face is aflame. They ran out of the room to the Rebbetzin, that's his wife, and said they're very worried. So she comes in to try, and he's not responding to his wife. She ran outside the Rebbetzin and she called two Bachim who were standing there, and she said, quick, call me, the Rebbe says, the son-in-law. I was already on the way home. When I heard what happened, I ran back quickly to 770, up to the second floor to the Rebbe's apartment. So when I came into his holy room, I came to him and I bent down and I heard that the Rebbe is saying, Oz Yoshir, with tremendous dveikus. So I hinted to everybody, everything's okay, not to worry. And I, in fact, indicated people should leave the room. So I remained with the Rebbe. And he finished saying the Shira, and he said that a second time. And then I realized that saying the Shira, he's trying to move his legs. He had a stroke. And he's pushing his legs very weakly, faintly. And this repeated itself several times. When he finished saying the Shira the several times, he is sitting there, and it's a wheelchair, his chair, and a deep sigh of satisfaction escaped his lips. He opened his eyes, and when he saw me, he said in undertone, Baruch Hashem, es ist durchgegangen. All went through okay. The next day, we got a telegram informing us that Anash, you, had crossed the border successfully and had arrived to the town of Przemyśl in Poland. And this was us. This was the people that Rebbe was talking to. So when the Rebbe finished the story, he turned to all of us and he said, hearing this story, do you need someone to be an intermediary to the Rebbe to ask for his bracha? The Rebbe knows, and that's everything he can for all of us. All right, friends, have a wonderful day, and Amir Hashem, we'll see you tomorrow.